Hi, welcome back to True Crime Sages. I'm Tina Cummins. Today is decision day in the trial of Richard Allen. The jury is out and they're discussing the case, discussing all the evidence, and hopefully we'll have a decision today or tomorrow. The first thing I want to say is my heart goes out to the families. I can't imagine what they've been through over the last 7 years and throughout this trial process. But I know it's been really, really rough on all of them. There are no words to describe it. So, that said, I would like to go over some things. Now, I noticed there are a lot of people that are on the fence or are still thinking that Richard Allen is innocent. And in my opinion, he's completely guilty, and in my opinion, I think he's completely malingering, even though one of the psychiatrists and the psychologists said that they don't believe he was malingering. And the reason I say that, I've worked on a lot, and I mean a lot of missing person cases, over 300, and worked on missing person cases for many years. And if you want to go back and check out the videos that Belinda and I did, that's fine. If not, that's fine too. But this case, the case of these girls, the murder of these girls, in particular, had some tells of what happened to them from the very beginning. And, you know, we've gone over the case many, many times. And this is not a time to gloat, but this is not about gloating. This is about, experience. And Belinda and I were right. Everything that we had talked about, in our opinions, we were right. It happened the way we thought it had happened, the way we believed it happened. Now, I want to talk about some specific things that we've heard in the trial of Richard Allen. So psychosis, a lot of people are saying, oh, he couldn't have done it, he's got mental illness, or if he did, maybe that's what it was. Well, I don't believe that Richard Allen was in a state of psychosis when he decided to do this, or when he decided to confess. According to the dates and the timeline, Richard Allen started confessing prior to having a psychotic break. Now, a psychotic break is when someone can't distinguish the difference between what is real and what is not real. Malingering is when someone is putting on an act or not telling the truth. And the reason I believe that Richard Allen is malingering is he started confessing before he told his wife. As a matter of fact, when he saw his picture, and I can't be certain of this, but this is my opinion. When he saw his picture on TV, he decided he was going to get ahead of it, and he was going to go ahead and make contact with the police and say, yeah, I was there that day. Now, how his the tip that Dan Doolin turned in, ended up marked as, no big deal, and ended up in a file cabinet somewhere, that will probably take time to unravel. That said, a couple days after the girls were murdered, Richard Allen went to police and said, yeah, I was there that day. Now, did he come right out then and say he did it? No. But the timeline puts him on the bridge. It puts him out there. The timeline also puts when he left. Now, he's changed his story a few times, and that's common in murder cases. It's very common. The other thing that's common is, people want a smoking gun, or they want DNA evidence. They want a quick fix television, CSI, quick solve, case. That's not what most murder cases are. So I want to talk about some of the things. Now, people are discussing Haldol a lot, how he received Haldol once a month. Well, the doctor that gave him the Haldol testified that he was on a very low dose of Haldol. And then he eventually became better. Some of it is long-acting Haldol, and he testified that, it could stay in your system for 30 days. Basically, it's an antipsychotic med, and it will keep you calm. However, Richard Allen testified to his guilt prior to receiving the Haldol, prior to the psychotic break. He didn't testify to it. I take that back. He admitted his guilt and his role in these murders and committing these murders prior to the psychotic break. Also, let's not forget, these murders were premeditated. So what did Richard Allen, from his own mouth, say that he did that day? Well, he said, he went to his mom's house in Peru, Indiana, and then he came back home, got a coat on, and went out to the bridge. Well, what he failed to mention was he picked up a gun, and he picked up a box cutter, and he took them with him. And we know he picked up a box cutter because he admitted to killing the girls with a box cutter. Okay, so people are going to say, well, he's crazy. Oh, he's only 5'5", and he's a little guy. He couldn't control 2 girls. Okay, so you can't have it both ways. You can say he's crazy or he's not crazy. You could even say he went in and out of psychosis. Excuse me. That said, if somebody's pointing a gun at you, do you think they're going to have control over 2 girls? Do you think they're going to have control over you? It's not about his height. And for those people who are saying, oh, he's a little guy, he's only 5'5", he couldn't control 2 girls. Bullets are faster than people run. And apparently these people have never heard of Adolf Hitler or Julius Caesar. Because they were little guys, and, Hitler killed over 6 million Jews, and who knows how many people Julius Caesar killed. So I'll just leave you with that thought. It has nothing to do with his size. First of all, my dad was a little guy. He was only 5'2" when he died. He was 5'5" at his height, at his tallest height. And he was mean. He was mean. No getting around it. There was a guy at his work one time. This was back in the 60s. And this man was a guy that he worked with. He was a big black man. And he weighed about 230 pounds, solid muscle. He was teasing my dad. And he walked up and smacked him on the ass. Well, my dad was very homophobic. Okay? I'm not, but my dad was. Walked up and smacked my dad on the ass, and my dad pulled out a pocket knife and slit this guy's hand. He was ready to cut his throat. Now, clearly, this is a big man that could have beat my dad's ass had my dad not had that knife in his hand. So, while it's good that people believe that, small guys or not everybody's capable of this, it's good to believe that and know that not everybody's capable of committing a crime like this. But there are men out there. There are women out there that are capable of committing crimes like this. And it's really hard for people to know who they're actually dealing with. Having seen and dealt with so many murder cases and missing cases, it's shocking what some people are capable of. It's very shocking. Yeah, just because a person is 5'5" doesn't mean they're not capable of controlling and killing. If they're 5 feet tall, it doesn't mean, they're not capable of control and killing. And why do you think they call it Caesar syndrome? You know, somebody short, you know, they got to rule over the world because they have low self-esteem. And anyway, getting off track here. So I also want to talk about his confessions in particular, because, you know, even though some people reported him as malingering and some said he was not malingering, I believe he was malingering. And the reason I believe that is because he knew where he was when he confessed. He knew who he was talking to when he confessed. When he wrote that letter, the little letter to the jail warden, saying he's ready to confess to killing Abby and Libby, he filled out the form. He knew exactly where he was. He knew exactly what he was doing in that moment. Now, if you're talking about psychosis, generally it's being oriented to time, person, and place. So he knew he was in prison. He knew he was Richard Allen, and he knew what time it was. He was not out of his mind completely. Now, people are going to say, oh, well, he was eating his own feces and rolling around and, you know, basically jerking off in feces, or, you know. So let me tell you something. There's something called coprophagia. And you can look it up. It's coprophagia. And coprophagia is something where people are sexually excited by eating their own feces. There's coprophilia. It's another paraphilic term where people are excited by pooping on each other. Now, for normal people, most people, that tends to, you know, oh, that's disgusting. That's really gross. It's sickening. But for some people, like Redwine, Mark Redwine, for example, he was sexually excited by that. To me, it's disgusting, but you can look it up. It is a thing, and there have been many studies on this, and people who have tried this, like 18% of men, both straight and gay, homosexual, whatever, 18% of the group that they studied that have just tried this actually were sexually excited by it, which is really terrifying. Now, these are people that they studied that tried it, you know, so that's 88% that it didn't do anything for them. But, I'm sorry, 80, did I say that? I said the percentage is wrong. Anyway, 18% out of 100, so 82%, it didn't do anything for them. But, anyway, 18%, they were sexually excited by it. So, that's the end result of that study. So, if you're thinking about him, knowing that he's in a private room and he's on camera and he's rolling around, eating his own feces, smeared it on him, jerking off on camera. A lot of times these guys will do it for the shock value. They'll do it for the sexual excitement. And it's kind of like positioning someone who's nude after they've killed them. Guys will do it for the shock value so they can, it sexually excites them to shock and disturb other people. And I'm not saying that's specifically what, you know, this person did, but I just want people to know that is a part of deviant sexual behavior. It's not always, you know, it's not always. There are people in jail that eat feces and go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and they don't know where they're at or what they're doing or anything. But I don't believe that with Richard Allen in particular, because he's confessed over 60 times, and he was not disoriented to person, place, and time. Maybe overwhelmed, maybe extremely anxious, and maybe, just maybe, he's malingering and trying to do it for shock value. It's also come out that he has tendency of violence. He's been violent at home against himself, perhaps against his wife. I don't know what the domestic violence call was for, but it's also come out in court that he's tried to attack deputies. So, Yeah, little guy, but it's got the temper of, a lion, apparently. So I wanted to talk about that. And the other thing I wanted to mention, now all these people that are thinking, that hate cops, let's be real, there's a lot of people out there that hate cops, and it generally has to go back to their own dealings with cops. They hate police, and they want to defund police, and we've heard all the rhetoric over the past 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, whatever. We've heard the rhetoric about defund the police. You can't trust the police. Yes, there are crooked cops out there. I'm not going to say there's not. I know for a fact there is. But in reality, it would take, in the case of the state versus Richard Allen, it would take at least 50 people to be involved in a conspiracy to cover up, to frame this one man. And I don't see how that's possible when he himself put himself at the bridge. He himself, before he had a psychotic break, went and confessed to this crime. He told things about the crimes that no other person except the killer would know unless they were there at the crime scene. And he told these things without coercion. He sought them out. They didn't seek him out. He sought them out. Now, why did he do that? I don't believe. I mean, he says he found Jesus, but if he really found Jesus, he would confess to everything he's ever done. He would confess to whomever he's killed, whomever he's molested, any, the thoughts that are going on in his head, what he's done in the past. He would confess fully. He would stand up in front of the jury and say, yes, I did this, and this is how I did it, and this is why I did it. And he would tell the dirty details, and he would say, I've accepted Jesus, and I'm sorry. He hasn't done that. This is another ruse. This is another ruse. It's a typical thing where, all of a sudden I found God. It's to play on the sympathy of the jury. And it's also to get one over on them. Okay? It's like a lot of killers they'll confess and they'll say, yes, I'm sorry for my crimes. I'm sorry I did this, or I'm sorry I did that. Especially killers, but they always hold back the details. They'll hold back the bodies of where their victims are, and they won't tell police. They'll hold back the details of what happened because they hold those as their secrets. Now, I am praying that if, in fact, Richard Allen killed these girls, and if in fact he found Jesus, which is possible, if he found Jesus, he will stand up and tell the truth, because that's the only thing that's going to give him any kind of salvation. You have to stand up and admit what you did wrong, everything that you did wrong. You confess your sins, and you change your ways. Rolling around in feces and masturbating on camera is not doing that. It's also not, in my opinion, psychotic, because the man knew where he was. He knew what he was doing. Does he like Haldol? Maybe he likes Haldol. Maybe he likes Prozac. Maybe he likes being high. And a lot of people, they like being high and they like committing these types of crimes. It's a sexual thrill for them. So I'm not buying into any of that. I'm not buying into the BS that's been put out there, in my opinion, by the defense. I think it's a bunch of horse shit. The Odinism, the crap. Now, I'm not saying Odinism doesn't exist, and I'm not saying that people don't celebrate Lupercalia, whatever. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying in this particular case, I don't see it happening. Yeah. There's a lot more I could go into today, but I'm really busy and I have to get going here. And in honor of the people who think I'm a tinfoil hat wearing crazy old grandma, if you look back at my videos, I want to just say I told you so, and I put this foil up here for you to protect me from all the evil. Sorry, sarcasm intended. A lot of people don't believe in psychics. I necessarily don't like the word psychic. In fact, I hate it because that's not exactly what I did. Can't stand the word psychic. But if you look up government programs for psychokinesis, they're very real. And a lot of times they're very accurate. Might surprise you. Look up CIA, psychokinesis. You'll find it. Anyway, I digress. I'm going to leave it there, and praying for the jury to convict this man who I believe killed these girls, and I believe this wasn't his first time. Yeah, I'll leave it there. Have a good day. Bye.